Niba nyumu kewe gyu tembar meba sedredwa. Nyumu kewe gyu diyan tembar yo mares tishegdwa. Tangu tama dilya nyumu kewe shidile ngeba yo mares tisheswa. O ta niba nyumu kewe gyu tembar meba ne tishegdwa. Migba tembar mebe pongwar nyuba masese. Nyumu kewe migba di yu tozu tembar mebe chane ko miksa di kasha yidu wanto kasha yidu me wanto tal shesa swa o di indi te tembar mebe ane nyumo pong desha kondolo so pong nyuba ma sesi gyora kyu tembar mebe kone ja pong nyuba yindi se mikba tembar mebe kone nyumo pong tukbure se ane gyu tembar mebe chane samlutane nyumo pong tukbure sungdwa kares ne chagan desha shetan timu ne kundu tolen chungare sungse desu sangmade number tokbala tene chungare se desha shida control sobte da songdwa se Yeshe ba daras diba de chilapshana tininga wodi lamna
right. So now we've arrived at the second part here, where it's showing how it is possible to abandon or to eliminate the afflictions, and we just had that the afflictions can be eliminated because their focal basis is not definitive. Now we're on that their causes, that the causes of giving rise to the afflictions do not exist truly. So not only can afflictions be eliminated because their focal objects lack true existence. The focal objects, sometimes for some it's for some things, for the same object, for some people it's attractive. For other people it's unattractive, and so given that, then the focal objects lack any true existence, but also because their causes do not have true existence. So when we well, the commentary says, it says desire, anger, and confusion are explained to arise through conceptuality.
That's Tokba mebar desha la sola yunyi yuminas. Yandan dundan tokba shilotan denba sushin zinsigdwa. Tokba mebar desha la soba kigma resu kasur sumi yiji di namdo mebar sigora. Nezu le kandeshuna tele debachi. Nezu le mebachi tsudan mitumbachi. Samlutane yidu onsule debachi. Kuna yukura nedan debachi. Yidu an samlutan. Ene samlutan tele tenene. Teta mendrawa te tomna sansang desati kigyora. So tokba meban desala soli yunyi menase. Sushi maimbe yiji ji tokba mena. Ene takba judu takba nashi. Tokba takba mebar sura. Takta la judu taya deko. Tambo takba chatan drabu reche. Ene sa rabe rube nagu sonza. O mendro sam soso kichi drabu yoza. Tokba tasharwa. O tene judu tagyore sigora. Tawdala judu takbadar, tokbe takba meban deshala soba kune nyumumba nam yueba ni nyeba yueba minasido. Sola yu ni yu minasidra. Tokba meban deshala soba ene yueba mare sigora. Yueba ni nyeba minasido. Yanda dunda tokba shilo dan demba sushin zin sigdo. Oh, tedage yueba de tan yueba de Nimo Gesak Chatan Gesak Yuba the condition Yorisana. Tadage Yuba, Done Yuba Konar Sages. Korama Ingen Chasheta, and a Lepa Tagbalia, Tagba Samlayani Yore Sigara. Tedage Yuba, Done Yuba Konar Sages. Onye Jituba Mebes, Ranking Oyo Sutuba de Omares. Onye Jituna, Yandaba Trube Tendange. Onye ji truba yena ene yang dagbar truba resgora yang dagbar truba tenda yena ene yang dagbar truba tenda ene pa tokbe takba ni buden gegre resgora Tonda Tokbe Tagba, she Lotan Demba, Sushin Zin, Tokbe Tagba, Moni Truba Gavecheros, Yaleti Robs Lobda, any young Jalapsho.
So if we look at the root text, the first two lines read, apart from conceptuality, desire and so forth have no existence. So the existence of afflictions, such, this is the commentary, the existence of disturbing emotions such as desire cannot be found apart from the conceptualizations of an incorrect mental approach. This is talking about how things have a certain they have a certain, shall we say, way of being, or something like that, have a certain ontological status, or and then we this incorrect mental approach, or different translations for this, you could even say misconception, or I forget Jeffrey's, I think, anyway, we'll just use this. It just something's happening where we then project onto it something that's, although it has a certain way of being, we project onto it a way that exceeds that. So there's an attractiveness, for instance, that exceeds what is actually there. Okay, and so that's an example for desires, or attachment. We're projecting onto the object, or superimposing is another way of saying it, onto the object a attractiveness that exceeds what is actually there. So that's one way that the cause is what do you say? Doesn't have. That's one way of incorrect. That's one way of incorrectness, and the other way is through dependence. Okay, just through or reliant. She's using the word reliance here. So, but dependence in the sense of imputation by concept. So just as a snake is imputed on a mottled rope, so their existence. Here you can think of both of these. The existence is both the incorrect because it's dependent upon the incorrect mental approach, and it's dependent upon the imputation by concept. And the existence there of that thing is simply a reliant existence or a dependent existence, and therefore they do not exist by way of their own entity, or it says here, by way of their own essence. There's not some essence that by which they are existing, and there isn't also that they simply do not exist from their own side. They have a dependent existence. Then it says here, and we'll give comment. Genna will, what do you say? Elaborate on this one statement. If they did have their own existence from their own side, then who with intelligence would hold that they are imputed by conceptuality, which means the opposite of existence in terms of their own reality.
Oh yeah. I don't know this is what. Chue tamje ko tokbe takba so de chitan chue sangma tamje de umatenje lu chi de ko tokbe wangi shakba yesigdo. Chue sangma tamje tokbe wangi shakba re tokbe takba samre yesigora. Oh this look also go de kangba jine ko kangbe chashe ko da gegung da sigba da chi tinde chi letene and de kangba pata gyora. Daga de chala dom ne ko de kangba res che pata gyora. Oh de ko tokbe wangi kangba siti Kangbas pa takba res gora. Tokbe takba te samay ba rangwe ne kangba seji tuki yo na. Ane de tokbe wangi shakba ma res gora. Yu korang rangwe ne su korang imba chipik ne su tuki yo gora. De ne yu rangwe ne tuki ne tokbe wangi pa shakba ma res gora. De ne ko tokbe wangi shasde mayinge kangbe chashere mangbu chili tene on de kangba res pa tarwa. Tita duda, oh, de Kangbares and Jigna Tanyel Kanga, de Kangbares, Tachosorwa. Tita Togbe Wangi Shagba some setis gora. Koran Dashi Chashe, Deletan Togbe Patane. Tetam la Kangba Yima in Namsha Shawar Mado. A Kangba can dress and it's a Jutayaki Omarwa. Within the Togbe Wangi Shagbaina, you rang when it to Yungi Omara. You rang when it to Togbe Wangi Shayaki Yomara. Togbaki Wangi Pashayaki Yomarwa. As you do, Togbe Pa Tagbam, Togbe Wangi Shagbada, Rangwin and Yovanidin Gagres Yora.
So if they in the Prasangika system being expressed here, the everything exists by the power of being imputed by terms and concepts. So then and that's enough for it to exist. But if we, once it exists by, for instance, if we take a house, okay, so a house has all these different parts, and then we impute house to that with our concepts and our terms, and that conventional existence is enough for it to exist. If we then try to find house amongst that collection of different parts, then we simply won't. There's nothing we can come up with that is the house. We can't find the house. So so that's why Prasangika asserts this. Another way of saying it is this contingent existence, or this reliant existence. Maybe it's better to say contingent or dependent existence. But then. So what's being said here is, well, see that although it has this dependent existence, okay, that we impute terms and concepts to this collection of parts, then we still want to find it from its own side. It very much feels like something exists there from its own side, and so then that it doesn't need to depend upon these concepts, that it just somehow exists from its own side. So then this, so what happens then is this mere existence by conceptuality, or imputation by conceptuality, and existence from its own side are contradictory. So So it's saying if they did have this existence from its own side, then there's no then it wouldn't. You would know right away if you actually could find it and it had this existence from its own side, then it couldn't possibly. How could you then possibly hold that it existed by its by being imputed by conceptuality? So then these two are in what are contradictory, like it says here: existence by conceptuality and existence by way of a thing's own entity, or existence from its own side, or existence by its own essence are contradictory, or essential existence. Yeah.
Oh yeah. But then that called this yora. The pena kangbari suji tonsona. Oh, the lagare kangbari patarva. Lotagi ora tobak fatagi ora. Oh, the tange lode samarva. Oh, the deco ranzimbe sama rangla sama sonzum yitsimba sigdwa. Kangbe chashari jora kortonya did the kangba mare kangbe so gorage tonyanaya. Oh, the kangba res pa lotabarwa. The lotange lode kangbala samare sigora. Oh, the lode tabana she could simbaja or esera simba. Again, digbarida. Oh, lotaba samge ranzimbe sama rangla sama sonja simbares. Simbajurta, Masimbajiona. Oh, there's a Mariko Kamba Yoda Tanda Shenda Yorsena. Any Chizan or Direse, got the Marigumar Diresha Chizuzu Sechiogora. With the Mazanko, Tobetasam, Ranzin Sama Rala Sama Sonasam Simbare. Ranzin Bet Samam, Ranzin Bet Toba de Rala Sama Sonasam Masimba Yona. That arrest Richis and Raishogores Yora. Dio Martes on that Tobepa. My engaged Tony or did she race as on Daget Dibachores era. Kuyona did it Zobare. Oh, did you like
Tema?
Sama's the local Samarwa. The Bumbar in the Kawa said the Samarwa. There's a dig con the Bumbar has somebody with Simbacha or Esigora. Dig and dig, but that Dylan Davis you Kuyona, you look at your mare. The Yona is an any chichen Yogura. That again, the welcome by in that sorry. Oh, did it?
So when we impute to this collection, if for an example of a house, when we impute the terms or concept house to that collection of parts, by saying house or thinking house, then that's a valid cognition. Okay, that is completely valid. We can say, table or vase. That's completely valid. It's enough for it to exist in that way. But then, if we somehow aren't, like for instance, you don't even need all the different parts of the house. You could just have like some corner of the house and it would be enough just to say, oh, there's the house, and so then that's enough for it to exist, is what is being said by the Prasangikas. But then if we're not satisfied with that, if we feel, well, that's not enough to exist, so then we look for something amongst all the different parts of the house, the doors, the windows, the walls, the roof, and look to come up with something. Oh, this is the house. You can't find something that is the house. So then that's why it's asserted that things do exist by exist by imputation by. How would you say? Imputation by conceptuality. They are merely imputed by terms and concepts.
Thabkhe chasne thabkhe yen tu re kado da yib de kanga thabkhe charwa chajen su de thabkhe khoran se gyora 차다 차진다 균다 균제스도 균스도 균제스도 계지 당분이버 숨바 시바세야로 균제스도 계지 dom바들 수 균제스게라
계지 둠바
균스도 균제스게도 균스도 변에 초조를 지기나 고 까마지니 숨싱아도 가제요나 대주 균이라 봐 균제스도 초조 찍스도 균제라 봐 네. 이마지 쇼게스네 초조를 가셔를 차셔까지는 고 균이라 봐 지지를 된데서 연구하라 균제스도 니마 찍세야르잖아 초조 찍세야라고 됐어요 자고 균제스도 계지래래 가만가만 치면 방아지 용게돼 균제스도 대다 차신들 쓰거라 가야 주지 센시를 미루하신도서 되나네 가야 고라 탁베 차셰다 차진다 계지가지다 계지 넘버 가야 탁바 연계지 변에 요 말을 쓰거라 얘나 매바 되나 신쓰거라 풍비 속바당 알아서 강사 디미리 데타레 데발라레 서파타 손을 쓰거라 ane 풍부 촉바다 수지 풍부 초야 풍부 두신 넘버시 풍부 촉바스기 와라 풍부 촉바다 촉바진에서 레레레네 수 셰바 초와 두시세라 야야나 속보데 풍부 수지 풍부 촉바 촉바진에서 락바 강바 생고세라 키지 차셰레레 촉바진에서 와라 풍부 촉바다 촉바진다 균다 균제 풍부 계지 마 당분이 버셔야 돼서 풍부 벌써 domde keji dombe de searsigora kaya kansado mirum shizo odinane pene yo debenane chashesene kaya kansa imbachiraga mare mare de pungbula tene kansadil pungbu chane sugchana semchana choachana chikchane o de godje tonsuna pene tonsuna o de chiji redo as kansa de reshas tagrwa pa goma do kege madon inaya bena mahira ji kom goji bu tonsona odi mahira sha ti kiresha sigira ko kaya ronala tene sigora tagba yembes o de mere de kansare de tare de panar fata yore sigora ngone ji tuba me bar chetam jil shebar chawaja ngone ji tuba yo mare mainge ji chashe ji ton de ji res foto beta yora o de dribar mado da rangone yo na 대딱바디 만디버저 마침버저 단다식된데 요거와 어쨌네 가르스네 페네지라 요거티 요 말와 뭐 대선도 최탐제 랑고네 매버레 독배왕게 파딱바 삼레 스테이션 바쳐고레스 거라
So in this next part, and the commentary explains the rope analogy. When a snake is imputed, I mean the snake analogy, a snake has a rope. When the snake is imputed to a rope, neither the parts of the rope, the different colored sections and the weaving, different parts that are woven together and so forth, and that which possesses the parts, which would be the rope itself, and its continuum, which would be the stream of moments of the rope, nor that which possesses the continuum, which would be like an hour of the rope or a day of the rope, appropriately illustrate a snake. There's nothing there that is a snake when the snake is imputed to a rope. So similarly, neither the collection of the aggregates nor that which makes up the collection, there's the collection of the aggregates, and there's that all the different things that make up the collection of the aggregates, the parts of the body and the parts of the mind and so forth. Its continuum, the stream of moments that of the aggregates, and that which possesses the continuum, which would be, a day of the person, or an hour of the person, so forth, then is appropriate as the person. So you should understand that because of But then, so what's being said is that just that we can understand person by just any parts of those aggregates, or any for instance, like a water buffalo. If you just saw the water buffalo's head, that would be enough to say that's a water buffalo. That would be enough to impute water buffalo. So you should understand that. But so what's happening is that we're, based on that which is not water buffalo, we are imputing buffalo or water buffalo. So, but then if you're not satisfied with that, then and feel there should be more to the water buffalo, then if you, or the house or the person, if you look there amongst the parts, if you feel, oh, it exists there from its own side, there's something there that is, and that would mean there's something there that is the water buffalo or is the person. So when you search amongst those aggregates or the parts of the aggregates of the person, the aggregates of the water buffalo, you can't find anything that is it. So you should understand that because of being imputed in dependence on the aggregates, the person does not exist by way of its own entity, and that this therefore this furthermore applies to all phenomena.
O de chinjilogi lo res yora kun zimbane shiwa mares chinjilo do tuba penase da pede shagdo samden bangashi toba shenshi gola jaro nyamdo tuba na gashi gende kyoje gole hungo she toba shenshi gyurwe tokba logba shino sigdo o komjange do gashi ko komjane samza tinde yengirwa sashi soso kinru komyada tinde yora tinde mendo chi komde de ne parujilo ko 소소한 거들이야 터바 샹다지 자대샤 삼자 땡기 오래셔래 투제 답에 건데 때 나와데 다기 엄마는 걸 때 샹다지 터바 샹다지 도 삼땡기 오래 다데 미기 말에서나 자고 대치기만에 터바 샹다지 미된제 어디 결혼한 거네 사르송세 터바스다 아 땅에데 디임버레 땅도르산에 터바 매바시네 하고 요라 어디 나시고 유랑은에 트바티지 대치 매바시에서나 동바시에서는 진짜 하고 그랬어야지라.
So then, if you don't feel that things exist in this way as dependent designations, then and feel that there's something that that is there from its own side, then what you have is an instance of a mistaken and wrong perception. So there's an example here of a meditator. Well, it seems to be somebody meditating on the parts of the body being a skeleton and so forth. So when a practitioner of concentration mistakenly imagines there to be a skull on top of his head, okay, that's an instance of some kind of a wrong perception, something mistaken. But you can't simply say to the person, there's no skull on your head, okay? and so instead what you have to do is if someone else shows him a skull and says, this fell from your head, then the idea will be dispelled. So then it seems that understanding, getting rid of this wrong perception about things existing from their own side is like that.
Jagara in the Chido Tin Davras Medro, Jagar in the Tonset. So Narva. So Mambuna Antigen to go Gotangusera, Mambuna, and the Code Kagasala Yonje, Tambun and Buchunju's Kitty, Sarapajone, Buchunjuchi. And they had the Katan, there is a Kongan, Sajamade. Buchunju the Tungua. Oh, Tanguning a trans Kaja. Tanagim in the trans, the taco nowadays. Tanti 21 some simple drivers and so I take it.
It seems to be like there's a story, an Indian story of a person who had a really bad toothache, and the person who wanted to help him with it just picked up some kind of a small worm that he found, and he reached into the person's mouth and then pulled out this worm and said, "Oh, look, this is what was giving you all that trouble." And then the person felt all better after that. So it's really we're just you know, it's something made up in our own concept.
Because come the Sigara, come the Shebe, Sunday, the tennis, Shesarwa, or Riba Tuju Barsen, Jigan Mari, Kenjando, Kanji Zobe Sanjason, Tation and Jigandi, Namdo in Shichi Metesigua, Sanje, the Riba Tujuman, Son Nashi, Jigan Samatam Jideco, Tommy Mari Balasobadan, number Tobo Chitotane, Tendaji Yungi Resungua. Kanji Zoba Tation and Jigandi Namdo in Shichimete, so the Jigang nature is a Kanga number to Pataba some race, Rangone Maris at Daredwa. Chebet, Lekber Kundu Chubel Shebar Show, Titon Daddy, some Lutan and she took to us, you Rangone Mabasongira. Oh, did she love?
So we can understand that things don't exist from their own side. In Chandrakirti's commentary here, so the meaning of the text and of Chandrakirti's commentary at this point may be understood by a thorough comprehension of what the 60 stanzas of reasoning says. The world is caused by ignorance. The fully enlightened one said so. Therefore, why is it not feasible to say the world is conceptuality? So that everything is dependent upon concept.
Oh yeah. That's somebody that transition that somebody. And you more pon menu be Tuchi Kabasigua. You more pon took Mares, Chig Labjete, Mares, then pon took race on Gua. Oh, Gede said, then the Kaji Sigisa, Mother Soso Samlet in the corner, and it in the Mare did he said on Darawa. Sena said the Shandaji, take Mare. Gede Keba dan Peme, Penzu Chigi, Ujengi Chagwell, Henji Chingbe, Peme Medon, Chagba pon menu so Yam Nas, some Nasigura. Oh, Gebada Pemetabu, Pensuchi Chilia, and Chagbade, and Chagbe, Henji Chingbes, Chagba on get Henji to Kaga, Sembina, the Kaga Dreamer to charge Nimdo Yonde Sigura. Chingbe, Peme Meton, Chagba Bon Minister, Geba in a Peme Meton, Peme Geba Meton Arese, or this on the Chagba de Pantok Mare, Sena Sigura. Then they call Geba the Peme said Chita, Debe comes on that. Chakba de She Yungu is a theory, Mother Chidang Webu Kangala, Neda Luda Longus to Kangala, Chakba del Chagura.
So, since men and women, here we're on the third part, which is refuting proof that afflictions cannot be abandoned. So it's bringing up the position that where somebody is firmly believing that there's no way that you can get rid of your afflictions, and then so their assertion is as follows: since men and women are bound together by mutual desire or mutual attachment, one cannot give up women and thus cannot give up desire. So then the idea is here that it's the desire realm. So it could be any object that we're talking about in the desire realm. That's just, this one is a more evocative example. So that's why this is being used. But it's just the idea that somehow that we're in the desire realm, and it's our attachment is so strong. Then how could you possibly give it up?
No, yeah. Don't do that. Utsawadira Gala Kangda Henji to Sigdua Kebada Peme Gala Yansigura Gashila Yansigura Gala Kangda Henji to Chingbase Pemeda Peme Kangda Henji to Chingbase Sigura Kebada Peme Henji to Ko Shinjashani Dede Chingbadi Sigura in the only Chingbasia Yuba Minde Korango Korang Nelu going to Chingbake Mares or Rangshinji Chingba Mares or social number of China coaching Basuya or Madaji, Ranging only teaching by Maris or any dead. Only teaching by Shija Yuba Mindes. Rangshilan the one only teaching by Nako Kaduina, a Dagan Shinja Deg or a Deg Maria Kagan Rosha Sigora, Kagates and Rosha Sigora. You know, Rangshin and Dogba maybe Rangshinji Truena, and then Doya Yomar Daga Degri Sigora, Koi Rangshin Dora. The Mare de talk about social Sozan, some Rutanda Jagan, Jundu Sigora. Only Shanda Lenji Chingbarigba Mayente, only Shanda Lenji Chingbala Tewa Rigba Mayde, only Chingbanet, Kagan Dram Shagre Sigora, Dagbaris in the Tegri, Degmedua Sigora. Tem Mirigbe Tewa Tonga Kaga Tem Miriba Tita to Tindete already, did Degmedo Peru Kaga to Dosigora, Shimbalon, Kobe, Chichi, Tongman de Condresa Chai Yongura. What did you? Tem Miribala, Tewa Tonga Sigora.
Well, so the commentary says, no man is intrinsically bound to a woman. There's what is being asserted here is that it's merely because it's dependent upon your concept that then there's. Because it exists in a dependent way, then there's no way that it could somehow this attachment, a man's attachment for a woman is somehow exists or exists from its own side. So since anything existing from its own side is irrevocable, it could never change. Whatever is intrinsically bound together should not be separable. Then that means that they'd always have to be that way, that they'd always have to be bound together. But yet it's the case that which, yet in the case of that which should not be separable, separation is seen. So if it did exist from its own side, as you're saying, then we shouldn't ever see that they could separate and just go in their own way. But we see that they can't go their own way, so that's just this is clear evidence that they're not, what do you say, bound intrinsically or from their own side.
Moya tapederida pena lang na bodan karbo ngonyeji chingba meya nyashin da chudala sokbe chingba shindo yuda wangbo ya sebe chingba yeno sigdwa o de pena dinashirese shinga tabduza langje langbo pashu panadin de sigora zoda ya to ni ende kebe gwagan le shingda ene takba kyabje ni chu Nyamdo Shingajan, quite tragic, Shingamugua. No, she's on what this you are da. Pena Lango Carbo da Nabuni, Nasiora. And the Chingba is when Yamdo Druiara, Companion do Jam the Chings and Druiara. There are Chingba came a resgora. Kunyashin Shing de Gogan, Jimbegan Shad, the Shing de da, and the Takbala so but to the pa, Ching and Yamdo Druiara, Sigora. Chingba Shindo, you da one boya. sebe jingba no so ti yu dang wang bu yin da ge ba pe min da chak be yu de ko sebe wang ge chak be wang ge so so le sam lo da sebe wang ge ni da ka ga dra me je tu sin yam do san do de yo re sebe jingba no.
So the analogy here is of a black and white ox, pulling the plow to plow a field. You have to harness them together. So the commentary reads, though a black and a white ox are not intrinsically bound together, they are bound by means of a yoke and harness. So that's not. So they're not bound together by their own from their own side. They're bound together in dependence upon this harness and this yoke. And so similarly, craving binds objects and sense organs together. So our sense organs, perception of their objects is bound together in dependence upon something else. In this case, in dependence upon craving. So there's a dependence there.
Oh yeah, that did that. That shiba. Nyomo mabamba tuma tonga gawa mebanis. Nyomo mabamba tuma tonga gawa mebanis. And the nyomo mabanga mangbo doa, and the tongbani come the nyomo pangu yona, Tezuka nyomo pangirwani, nyomo mabanga mangbo doa, pang toku me resigorva. The shiba nyomo mabamba tuma tonga gawa meba asigdwa. Yes, Kede, Tedar number chebe nyomo donas. Oh, then there's some Lutan in Yomo dog yona, and it kill pesh at the Yomo Mabamba, Shajin Dua, take on the rest you are at the Tanang Shenase. Oh, this Samuel Habar, Meba Travis, Deco Tombany, the Samuel Dozel, some Lutangi Omar, Meba Yomare, it is Sonzako Yungi or Resigura. Oh, Karesna, Sunam Chungi Chendela, Tezum Sayam, Sunam Chunjude. Some Gumbulu to the Soba Sumbe, Tombany Chendozola, Tezuma Sagma Resegura, the Taxi Chigmare, some Lutangmare. Tezum Sawa, some Yajan Siba River Shebrajo. Go Tezum San, the country in some, oh, Zacho, Nichi, oh, Pejiti, Mando, Dabudoa, some Temba Yinaya, and the Koadi, the Charnepa, Nimanesh, Takumada, the Charne, and the quality young cigarettes. Oh, I let this love 6
So now we're on this fourth part, which is the lack of contradiction in seeing many who have not eliminated their afflictions. So then the person who keeps on coming up with these assertions then says, if afflictions are stopped by analyzing in this way, then why do most people appear to not to have eliminated them? So then the answer is because they lack a strong belief in the profound teaching. So there's a well-known verse that says, those with little merit do not even doubt this teaching. Entertaining just a doubt tears to tatters worldly existence. So if you haven't the merit, you never turn your mind to thinking about whether it exists from its own side or not. But if you do turn your mind that way and then just sort of entertain some thought that, well, maybe it's true that things don't exist from their own side, then even that small thing starts to rip apart the fabric of cyclic existence, and you're on your way towards liberation.
Tebe Tembanyiji Chu Lobe Lutub Geshe dila sigura sunam chungi chun dila se de kar sigura sana ane kar sure rangwe ne tongba yena ya tenjin debar jongwa chamdo chawa khanga che thungge me chikba dan chulemba dan lungi yo ala soba chawa che thungge yena ko rangwe ne truba menge yena tenjin debar jongwa chule chawa che thungge ge damba nyegi chu lobe ludu ko songba dila sigiwara chawa chende basa kunsum temba sigora rangwene tongba sonda tentambe temba sigora o sonam chungi chende la siti re sera o tamje tenyi ji ludup ji sheba dila tende yimba no ngone tende rebe tende marebe sam tezum sagi o mare sera wende menam nyamdo tezum sawar yang menjuru ese tezum sawa yang menjuru sigdo nyomo pangbe tarba kala tobse tezum sawa menjuru ane konza nyomo pane tarba toya kawa yungure mi pechale yungu medusete yungu marwasi gyara tezum sawa yang menjo tezum sawa samje ja sibar ribur chebranjo tongba nye temba na chi didar yeno nyamdo tezum sawa samje ja tongba nye temba lutup da tezo sanje sumbatso ngone tende re mare samlo tane o peche rangwene tongba se namju ngazu rangwene yoba shejin zingi ware ki peche member da do re mendo a samzan je tezom ge dyunjur ge tezom da je samne tong sambai tongne yon tongba yena yas ge wara tongba nye temba na chi didar yeno nyamdo tezom sawa samshi ki seba shubur cheban gyurdes tezom sawa samje seba shubur cheban gyuse do tezom sawa yang menjo tezom sawa samje seba shubur cheban gyurse mo tesereta nelu je te yi ji chungse cheb karesna tongba ni ge te de ko to ze ha ko do chen o ngone rangone truba se de mendo a sam nam yu nga den de tonggu ye da de re mendo a sam de tongba ni le pho ko a do chungse jan le bares jaza seba be ko a thakbo de chak be sun de ten de chi yo re sung yo ra te yi le chungse chebe chero tezum sawa bo ngeba ten do nye she yang dak be tawa nuri ge ngebar chebale nyomo sene taba toban gyuroso teda bi tezum sawa sene tene ngeba tendo nye shense yangda be tawa nuri ge ngebar cheme tezum sa ne lungda rigba kyusen duge sozo samlo na adingo ne trande resha sam yeshe nye tene te yana yando kombala tene nyomo sen taba tom dugre sigara o de
So the first two lines there says, those with little merit do not even doubt this teaching. So the commentary then addresses those two lines by saying, those with little merit do not even have a doubt regarding the two truths as asserted by Nagarjuna. The two truths being that, to read it then, that the two truths being asserted by Nagarjuna is that while dependent arising is empty of an inherent existence, action and agents are feasible. So that what's being asserted here is that things are empty of existing from their own side, or void of existing from their own side, if you prefer that word. But at the same time, they are dependent arisings, and therefore, within being dependent arisings, action and agents are feasible. So the conventional truths is expressed by dependent arising. That within dependent arising, action and agents are feasible. The lack of or complete emptiness or voidness of any kind of existence from its own side, or inherent or intrinsic existence, then that expresses ultimate truth. So then you have those with little merit don't have any doubt about this, since they don't. Since they do not wonder whether this is so or not, then they're not even thinking, is this right or not? It never occurs to them to even think about it. So how can they attain the liberation of having abandoned all afflictions? How are they ever going to abandon their afflictions if they don't even wonder whether this is so or not? So that's answering the doubters' assertion. Then the second part is entertaining just a doubt tears to tatters worldly existence. So when emptiness is taught, simply entertaining the positive doubt that it might be so tears worldly existence or cyclic existence to tatters. And so here, the kind of doubt that we're talking about is this doubt that is tending towards the fact that things are empty. So then, or tending towards the fact of that what Nagarjuna says about the two truths is oh, that seems true, or maybe that is true, or something like that. So you're sort of tending towards the fact that it is true, and the reason it tears apart worldly or cyclic existence is since to some extent the fundamental nature of existence has become the mind's object. So it's just like the mind is going towards that that truth of that fundamental truth of things lacking existence from their own side. So then when someone has that kind of it says someone who has such a positive doubt will seek certainty and then they start to develop a kind of a certain knowledge about things lacking inherent existence or lacking existence from their own side, and being dependent arisings that are wherein actions and agents are feasible. So then they are ascertaining. They get a more certain knowledge about the correct view through scriptural citations and reasoning, and then through gradually being accustomed to this, then they will attain liberation when the afflictions come to an end.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, then to pedera. Pena tebe simi sonwa te segura. Me pomborabs me chambujiko tashan cham jet kaskal rojede. Baruji kotaring which lebje tati chenro in Bora. That chess the Tatin Dromatum Gishaya do Tamabuchina. And a co Tatin Dromadu Nyadegraba. What they call Tobachi lesson in Bora. Less at the Neko the Simuchige. Simuchi Yonche, or they call teach and draw embre. Or teach and draw netene, Morade Sadile Techuche, or the Korangin Dao Santache, Shago, some the Nyamdo Tegiora. And the Simudige Lavre, or Takara. Dinepa Hoshol is on the Mandro Asher, Hoshola. Dinepa, Jundi, Jablo, Hoshol, Kera Mandro Asagora. Gares and Hojo de China, they go the Duakare. The Taikiabo, Balaha in a Sigua, Balaha in a Sigua. Tajo Balagas, Tamichu in Bara, Conjoma Pasu Ketum Geshe. No, these are diggity. Tinba China could dig a hakona. And the committee covers some young Shandal, I get to go in Barwa. Take Mogati, China, take a hakona, could teach the Shandal Pake, raise some jet. But then it cannot do. They may send me so at the Lojo, so Madashis cannot Lojo Mata Mandro ask you. Oh, Che Mabata, Tesum Sana, they go Tesum Sara, can the Kaina. 뭔가 대신 돌아올선 만들었기도 마다 아시기도 삼제 코치 근데 태좀 사대는 로아를 코치 로나 간데도 따고서 간 로샤래 태좀 마사나 오스 대신에 코데 랩톡 말와 태좀 산에 대르침베 따에게 뭐 바카다다 체베세 바조데 체네 스물에 타르바체 오 따에 티케로 바체고세 티제 코란 위에서 잠주되는 바타케제 코유살 바게샤르와 잠주래 판다르 침바신노서 대자 타르바좀 토발아야 내루지 통해 버터 고버텐도서 대땅마 슝도족에 타르바 토발아 년도지 타르바 톰나 랑게지 타르바 톰나 티징이 타르바 톰나 동반이 해버터 또 그래서 셰기어레서 게라 어디라
So there's an analogy here of a captain who was captured by an ogress. Okay, the idea is that this captain was riding his horse and they rode together for a long distance, and then the horse suddenly stopped and then wouldn't go. Sorry, my car sometimes does that. So then he understood that something had done that, and there was this ogress there, and the ogress said, "Don't go towards the south." He told him not to go towards the south, but he was immediately like suspicious. So why is she saying that for? And and he kept that in mind, so instead of following her instructions, he said, "Oh, well, maybe I'll go that way and see what's wrong with it." So he went that way and met with the king of the horses, Balahaka, and escaped from the ogress and crossed the ocean. So the idea is that if he hadn't been suspicious, then he would have never been able to escape from the ogress and reach to the other shore. So this shows that even to attain just liberation, any liberation, whether it's of a Shravaka or a Pratyeka Buddha or that of a Buddha, it's essential to understand the meaning of reality.
Nyomo ponzu gebar sheba tele shidwa nyomo ponzu de gebar shidu tenze shikune shidwa tongba nyeje ten tokbo de tokugure se keshmbure se tamba chikchera tarba dondo nyewa tamba tarba koale tare tepsi chegure se chikche nelu je tela tirimba o nelu tongba nye tokba la tambu de samlu tangure chikche nyomo ba nyebar se neba tamba nyomo te tongba nye kumge nyomo nyebar to se dugure se tamba che shinde shidwa Tinane shinane tambu tomba ni tuen tokba tamba delya tunze ngandwa nelu ji tela kuibar chawa tamba tomba ni le kuibar chegure kabu chegure te keshin bures gyora tarba toba la tomba ni to kuibar tamba tungele targo yena ene tomba ni to gurese khoale ndogbe tap tamba khoale kandis ndogure tap tamba tomba ni la trakba pangba se trakbu mare trakba pangba rangjo la lagbar shimba pangba 동반이 있어야 돼. 약보다 팀 멤버들도 만들어서 착신시는 되게 말했어. 다 뒤나는 당부 내루지 되라 구버 차와라 담바디 셰도. 어디 버질람나.
So now we're switching to another section in the outline of this for this chapter, and it's saying that this the next part is going to explain extensively how to abandon or eliminate the affliction. So the advice to understand the meaning of emptiness is the first part, then the advice to strive for liberation is the second part. Third part is stages leading to the meaning of the fundamental mode of existence means emptiness, and then advice that afflictions can certainly be brought to an end. So here in this part on advice to understand the meaning of emptiness, then the advice, the first advice, this is divided into 5 parts. The advice to take an interest in the meaning of the fundamental mode of existence means, sometimes we translate the ontological status of things. So then that means emptiness. So showing the need to understand emptiness in order to attain liberation, and then showing the means to turn away from cyclic existence, giving up fear of emptiness, and finally giving up strong attachment to one's own position. So we'll start with this advice to take an interest in the meaning of emptiness. Well,
동반이라 그거전에 가부전에 매바전에 아니티 고레스 티셰도아 최강시라 투바이 타르베 바도 페와니스기도아 최가레스나 강라 태좀 사와서 세버피부르 제버는데 동반이지 최강시스기와라 최강시 투바이에스도사 최강시 무슨도 떡바다 당부 무슨도 떡 대 심베 아니 동반이 무슨도 떡바 권에 짐바 수dimla 속발라 냠네 체니스기와라 대 심베 진소라 투바이 통람 계지 당분에 송대에세 아니 시시 타르베 바도 미냠시 페와니도 송베세 통람 계지 당부 톱전에 송대니야 야 림지림지 제제베 타르베 바도 타르바 톱도 바도 산제 고마 톱도 바도 야 펜두그리 송샤세 타르베 바도 페와니세도 페와니세 송대에세 아 타베 바도 페와니도 송베 최 동반이지 되라스고라 송대에세 강라 그 매바 때내서 언론대면서 대답부 개체에 동반이 되려야 겨 강라 그바 매바 되네 아니 세보레 로단 덴바 마레세 당이 신둘른 바인바 덤바레세 로 개반남지 동반이 대인베세 름바인베 개반남지 동반이도 따와라 그바 샤바르샤오스 어디 봐도 질랍다
So it's really talking about how you have to take an interest in, here it's saying advice to take an interest in the meaning of emptiness, and so interest is almost like, show some respect also, you could think of it like that, so respect of this valuable teaching. So then, so the subduer said of this teaching, there will be increase until liberation. Anyone who lacks interest in it clearly has no sense. So if we look at the commentary, the subduer said that from the Subdura, that means the Buddha, said from the first moment of the path of seeing until liberation, there will be no decline, only increase in the direct perception of emptiness. So that's you be there's no well until you attain liberation means until you attain the state of a Buddha, until you attain Buddhahood, then there's only increase in this understanding of emptiness, and it's this emptiness concerning which even a doubt tears worldly existence to tatters. So then the practice of giving and so forth conjoined with it will also only increase. All the different good qualities will increase as well. So anyone who lacks interest in the meaning of emptiness clearly has no sense and shows how very foolish he or she is. So so lacking interest or respect for this teaching then is, for this teaching on the meaning of emptiness is because of this quality of increase and what do you say, and no decline, then it's clearly somebody who is foolish. Wow.
Oh yeah, don't deal with it.
anyone who lacks interest in it clearly has no senses. That's the second two lines, the last two lines.
This one.
Right.
Jigdenbe chö namne sidwa te sidwa. Jigdenbe chö ki da gewa sabje dos kanga sigwara. Oh nyumo wang sabke. Jigdenbe chö namne namne chungne se bar yang gyula se. Debu nami de min sona ne ko zo dogre se ra. Tongba ni tokbe mi se tongba ni to sona se. Ani shinso ja namjen je chongje do chibar chebe so se. Tongba ni to ba yena ne tongba ni to be debude be ya pene sanje padon ro ma se ne chimba dan sutim dan soba dan samden la soba te zu parjin shanda te zu ya ne sanje je se ba to ya chibar chigre se te zu ba tar chimba chigre se yara.
Well, so then in the commentary it's saying that worldly practices come to an end once they have yielded their fruit. But understanding of emptiness leads the practices of giving and so forth to the city of omniscience. So it's the increase of understanding. Once we understand emptiness, it brings the practices of the other perfections like giving and ethical discipline and patience and meditative stabilization. All of those will come to perfection. So then that means that one reaches to the city of omniscience. Well.
Longa mambo chi be chata tonda kaze yona sigwara longa mi longa longa mambo tende yoba yena sigwara e kora zo dostan shana droto go marwa langa kawa yena te longti chi yona mi tanda yoba mi chi yona te ya chi ne kaban dogo na konzo chi chi li ju je ni a ta du yora chi da longa chogun de la do mingden ki bu chi jin de ba yu du chi ba se mi yonge mi chi ki ne kora kaban dondo ne te a ti tu gre sigwara oh minde ki bu de ba yu du chi shin dia daga nation de ya lo tongba ni tok be lo de ge ene chimba da chutim da soba da samden la soba tu zo nyamne shanda tu zo ko chimbe pharu do chimba chutin gi pharu do chimba sobe pharu do chimba ya sang ge ge ba do ya ro to ba de tongba ni tok be shire be che to gure se ge do o di ke shi ge ra ne.
So this is similar to a verse from Chandrakirti's supplement to Nagarjuna's treatise on the middle way, where he says if you have a group of blind people trying to find their way on the path, then there's no way that they can figure out which way to go and how to proceed. But if somebody who has sight then comes along, and then he or she can grab a hold of them, and then they can grab a hold of each other, and then you can that person who has sight can lead them to where they have to go. So it's similar to this idea of emptiness. When you have an understanding of emptiness, then it leads the practices of generosity and ethical discipline and patience and meditative stabilization and so forth to perfection, so that one becomes a Buddha.
Ladu kune nyangbar jeba yimbashinu ta tongba nyela mebachane tidile mebachane kongure sherwa o de pedela pena likares ta lida tinde so shabe jaga jingamu riri todo tinde yongudwa la turina la tu sigdo ati sembera la tu sigdo o de pena likare la tu de kune nyangbar jaw ko shimbush da yo enserwa be kanga be shimbush ne nyangudwa so tinashi tongba nyedia ko mebachane yabuche kongure setanda.
So the example is how you should take an interest in emptiness is just the contemplation of emptiness is like sugar candy here. The example of it, in India they have many different kinds of sweets, and this one is particularly great sweet. So then so then for everyone, it should always be savored. It's something that everybody feels is particularly, what do you say, something to be savored.
다니바 타르바 토발라 동니 또 그레스 때땡기도 타르바 토바이네 토바시발라 동니 게버도 또 그레스 때땡기도 개등어보 남 메동신도 안에 다 똑바꾸라 개등어보 또저 메동신도 안에 착바다 제베치도 녀모 방베치도 세바 방베치도 동반이 곰게 요아르다 안에 템바드베 동발라 동바테네 안에 동반이 곰고 요아레세 세나스기도 개등어보 남 메동신도 착바다 제와르자베치도 동반이 곰바이남 템바드베 동발레 대다르다와예 동바 손자 동발로 동바 따기요래 마이나야 고 녀모 빠야치도 따기요래 시기도 예 동발로 동바르 또네 곰바르체바레스 티시에도 안디 오마데게 티실람
So we're on this next section, which is showing the need to understand emptiness in order to attain liberation. So the questioner then says, does one meditate on emptiness, although things are not empty? Okay, in order to get rid of your attachment and so forth, are you meditating on emptiness, although things are not empty, or does one view them that way because they actually are empty of true existence? So, which is it? Well,
oh yeah, da ne nyangyen da gyurshi sigdo ade sigje dirwa. Kansa ta phungbu tendong do mado bar ane tembar shene ta ne tongba ni kombe nyangele dawaran gyuro she ngobo tongba memba la tongbar thongwa mare sigora. Da ne nyangyen da gyurshi se nyangele deba tobar chewe chedo tongba ni memba chele ya tongba ni komne ne tende cheba mare sigora. Da ne nyangyen da gyurshi nyangele dawar chewe chedo 동반이 뭐고 동반이 멤버라 동반이 다르 통네 ene tongbani komba mendis gora tongme tongdar tong mendis lode nyange medawa tongba membasila tongba resam komba ne logda rendu resera ende logda de komne nyangele dabade togi mare se tishinshik banamje logda de pangu resum gudo medo de nyangde toptog mare se ora nelu chinji lodo shimbe logde nyangele mendawar tishinshik banamje songso se mo tene tembe chö tamjene songdo tembe sanje chumde de chö tamjene tongbanye de ranshimebe tsugi so she songbadar nyangde sum kangdo joja tongbanye de tona kebar chaos dagna shi nyande rangje tijingi nyangde kare kutopku yunatin tongbanye komgore sigdo
so then here the verse reads one does not regard that which is not empty as empty, thinking thereby to attain nirvana. Tathagatas say that nirvana will not be attained through wrong views. So once one has an understanding of that which is empty as empty, one familiarizes oneself with that. So you have an understanding of that which is empty as empty. It is not the case that things which are actually not empty. This is like the wrong view. It's not the case that things which are actually not empty are simply regarded as empty, with the thought that nirvana will be attained by meditating on emptiness. So you're meditating on emptiness to attain nirvana, even though you understand that things aren't really empty. So then one who holds this view does not understand the emptiness of the person and aggregates, but thinks of them as truly existent, so that they're holding this view that they're not understanding the emptiness of persons and aggregates and is only thinking of them as somehow existing from their own side. So then the Tathagatas say that one so by holding this wrong view, then they're holding a wrong view. So then Tathagatas say one will not reach nirvana by means of wrong views, and as it says in this is the second part of the verse where it says, Tathagatas say one will not reach nirvana by means of wrong views, misconceiving emptiness. So, which is the fundamental nature of existence. So then what the Tathagata, the teacher did say was that all phenomena are empty in that they do not exist inherently. They don't exist from their own side. They're empty of existing from their own side. So no matter which of the three states of nirvana, whether, like previously I just said, that whether Shravaka or Pratyeka Buddha or Bodhisattva, whichever, or I guess you could say, yeah, Bodhisattva, whatever nirvana that you're trying to attain, one has to become learned in the meaning of emptiness.
Oh yeah, but then that ko ma ju what is na yung do. Sanjen jigden kam le chona da, ma ju na da, chotam je tong ba ni, me da ba. 사제them 제 동아 두종의 내술에 내버려서라 상제 직된 감리 전에 가려서도 된대 친질로데 삼로다는 만디래 근데 된대 거에 내롱원에 된대 레스제 사와를 잡아래서요라 자 공업은 내주다 틈바치 송게 얼마도 공업은 내줄래 마에 매버지 지금 lokso셔셔 같은데 말와 이 고고요라
So we have to remember the verse from Chandrakirti again, from that same supplement on the middle way, where he says that whether Buddhas visit the world or not, that things are still things actually are, things will always be, and whether empty of they'll always be impermanent. They'll always be, if they're contaminated, they'll always be, therefore, sources of suffering. These are what the Buddha did, was to come to the world to clarify that's the way things are. And so that's the same as this advice here.
Samu Kizu di Pederva, Chinji Lo Chilia, Maingaji Res, Comba Mares, Yimba La Yimba Conguores, Talisonrova, O di Peredua. Then at Samu Kizu, Tonja Mimba La Nagwashinose, Tageloncio in Barete, Changtung Driver, and the Koran Kizutilia, Cheran Chinche, Chang Kishos, Library. Aki on it in it, Tumba Imbra, and Kizuti Lamne. Take a long tongue show your best louder. And love to zang chewing something to your share, chewing something with oh, sir. The sunny the young Langatare, Kishos, Sarah, and go chuchi on. No, didn't can miss Shanda the kid to us. Oh, sir, and shoot it on chewing, Sarah. You cannot shoot it to you some jetungi says, Chuku, your saki,
so then. It's not a case of thinking that what is regarding something. How do you say? It's not regarding, like when it says here that do not regard things that are not empty as empty. It's not a question of regarding things as what they aren't. It's a question of seeing things as they are. So the example is of a novice monk and his ordained teacher, and the novice monk, the ordained teacher said, "Oh, go get me some alcohol." So then the novice monk asked him, went and got it. Then when the novice monk gave it to him, he said, "Is this? If this is unsuitable for monks, then why do you drink it?" And his teacher replied, "I imagine it's water." So then, another day, the novice monk brought water, and his teacher said, "Oh, what's this you bring?" "Oh, it's water." "Why did you bring me water?" And the novice monk said, "If you imagine it's water when you drink it, how is it different from this?"
What is right? Oh yeah, then the lesson and you can get lesson. Sumba dirva, Sumba. Sumba call a dog be tap them banese, I call and dog be tap them banese. Oh, getting over Rangshinji Trube Tongba Yina Sigora. Governor Rangshinji Trube Tongba Yina. They call on you ten Rigi, Simjanda, Nugin Jigdan, Jubat and Bechicha Ashena. Oh, Governor Rangshin maybe Tongba Yina, and they call on Rangshin maybe Tongba Chikbutan and Jigabase. And then Simjan Nam Tene Nugin Jigdan, Simjan Jigdan to Kwa Kuzuda Tende Tembe Karchik Rebasiora. Jigdanji Juksu, Madember Tongbani, Tomenu, Tekonani Togbe Tapsu, never thank you, Guresa. Oh, the Tombani Tone, and Ekira, young Aryradeva took Tony Janjatan Digra, and then Nugin Jigdanda, the same jet to down to Ludish and Karchik Resera. Oh, the Shayate. Tongbani talk with under to the Cogres, the Chevres, Sierra. Oh, teaching love.
Right. So here, showing the means to turn away from cyclic existence here. So the questioner then comes up with, if things are empty of inherent existence, it's appropriate to teach emptiness. What is the use of teaching how the world of sentient beings and environments come into existence, and the origin of how things come about, whether it's sentient beings or their environments? Why would you want to do that? What's the purpose of that? So then the answer is emptiness cannot be understood without an explanation of how the world comes into being. Therefore, explaining it is essential as a means to understand emptiness. So it's a way to lead the disciple towards emptiness. Wow.
Oh yeah. Ta kanle jigden sumga dasti yungudwa. Tibodo diswa. Kanle jigden ten jongwa sedra. Sungrab kanle esgyora. Ngobo la ngombar shimbe kone gyumeba da mitunbe gyule kyawa. Kakbetandos. Kanlen jigden ten jongasta, jigden de la ni yora, nöjin jigden da, jigden sinisgda. Nöjin jigden sada chudan meda longla ten jigden kamde chubgyora. Ti chubdan che songyora. Kala longden tela chichi ten che yongyora. Oh, tene ha, chuji semje nange, tela chi ten risigda. Chi tende da nagi tende niora. Chi tende den zambulin de tambu kandes tuberes de. Ene lung namga tongba che tele lung che ne chucha tene zambulin cha tende she yora. Ene tele ane simjen du kandes che yongores de. Tome marwe kunela niba du jig lesa. Ene sumba namshil pacha sha tende la chuni kone. Ne kashe meleke tende ke lale ke tende yongor shera. Tende la chuni le soba kone. O tezu shene siora. Kanlen jigden ten chungwa sigora sunraba kanlen ngobo tenbar shimbe kone gyumida mitunbe gyule keba kakbe tendo chi tende da naga tende niga gyu meba leke hamare mitunbe gyu takbe gyu da o jigden cheba boda tende che hamare se kakbe tendo ene maribe kenjin duji la soba naga tende shedu maribe kenjin duji la soba tende yana chungi kone sigora duji la soba simjen da simjen gi jigden tende tugures ne gi jigden de kande resna ane namga tongbal ya lung di ten simjen le ki wange lung la tene ane chuchu tele tene ane pazu chene jigden kam chabare sti she gyara o simjen da ne gi jigden temba jonwa tele kalen jigden ten jonwa se de sigora Oh, tele jugba sungba dese. Tele kor jugbe ane rimba sungba rese gwara. Kor jugbe rimba sungba rese. Tele jugba sungba dese. Tendamba tokbe tabimbe sote. Ten goya karsan tendam temba tokbe tabrese ra. Diba du chisheda. De oma de tanda chilshe chora.
Right. So then the verse says, whatever contains teaching about the world speaks of engagement. Whatever contains elucidation of the ultimate speaks of disengagement. So here, so whatever teachings, well, we're making a distinction here between interdependent arising and internal and external dependent arising. The internal, here, scripture's teaching about karma, about compositional activity, the second of the 12 links of dependent arising, then, or 12 factors of dependent arising, caused by ignorance and so forth. That's the internal dependent arising. That is the world of sentient beings. And in the environments describe the stages by which one engages in cyclic existence. So when you're, maybe I have to read the whole sentence, it's kind of confusing. The scripture's teaching about compositional activity caused by ignorance and so forth, the world of sentient beings and environments describe the stages by which one enters into cyclic existence. So you have the internal, which is the 12 factors of dependent arising. Then you have the external, which is describing the environment and how, based upon space, the wind element arises, and based on the wind element, then you have, I think, water element, and then on that, I might have it in reverse, but water element, and then earth element. So anyway, that kind of description is the external dependent arising. Then their purpose is to refute belief in causeless production, or production from incompatible causes. Two non-Buddhist assertions is that production comes without a cause, or or production comes from causes that are incompatible with that effect. So these non-Buddhist ideas then are based on conceptions of true existence, that things exist from their own side, then therefore there can be causeless production, there can be production from incompatible causes. So then so the purpose of this internal dependent arising and external dependent arising is to refute that. And so then they are thus a means of understanding emptiness. So you have to understand them both as a means to understand emptiness. Those scriptures elucidating the ultimate, the emptiness of inherent existence of phenomena, describe the stages by which one disengages from cyclic existence. So these are the stages of how one does engage in cyclic existence, and then the ones on emptiness describe how one disengages from cyclic existence.
Oh yeah, that can't let them ba chu rang shin ji tru be tong ba nye ba chung wa de ne kwa le dog be ring ba sung ba de su ra. Can't let them nye chung wa nye ba su tem ba su wa ra. Nye chung wa de le dog ba sung ba kwa le dog ba tang bu chi ga tang bu nye de kwa le ke na ki lu de she. Ne jin ji de da kwa chi de de nang de ke. O nye ba de ta de su tong ba ni de dang ba tem ba le de ne ane tong ni to ne kwa do ya kan de su do re sung do se ra. Oh, tena pe de re Pena Tingong to Jubana, Chajan Juba Chunsa Yoba, Dor Javashino, this year Mandro. Pena Saja Congo of the Chunju in the Nanzuja, no longer get in the Yungudua. What a Chunju of Chen, Tinan Zuja and Rocket in the Yungura. Oh, the Kambachambuche, Chilolia. Chunju Chet in there. Oh, it doesn't do that to do Shanda Chala Kanga Shaje, Dogura, Tombani, the Sierra. Oh, then there is no. Then go to Jubana, Chajan in Juba Chunse, you have a door Javashinos. Oh, did you learn?
So if you look at the verse, with the first two lines, then whatever contains teaching about the world speaks of engagement. So that's these internal and external dependent arising is how we engage in the world, and then so whatever contains elucidation of the ultimate speaks of disengagement. So whenever whatever talks about the emptiness of inherent existence of phenomena, that's how based on that understanding of the emptiness of inherent existence, then one can disengage with cyclic existence. So then the analogy is of when entering a deep, narrow passage, any equipment one must have is discarded. So it's sort of some houses, some large house, we can think of some large houses as being only, you could only get inside if you go through this very narrow passage in a very narrow hole. So then you have to go, oh, so you have to take off anything that you have and discard it, and then get through into this large house. So that's the idea behind understanding emptiness. Well.
Oh yeah. Talk about it. Shologa de la Verva. Oh yeah. Talk. The Shologa de. Can you my Chichashe, Cholan Jigba Kejurta, Kede Chawa Yunani, Chode, Dogji Minjuru Sidua. Oh, the time, Yamdo Palashana. Rangshinji Trube Tongba, Mobokula Yoba, Main Be Sidua. Can you my said there were Rangshinji Trube Tongna, and Ngobo Tomje Yoba Maimba to Resiguara. Can you my say, Rangshinji Trube Tongbayana, Kanga Mabshan to Resiguara. Can you my said. And Tarbe Chedon Bebe, Chicha se, Chicha Shesudua. Mobo kind man and Tarbato Chedon Bear Carriore, Tondamiduasiora. You my Chicha Shese. Tombani la Tragba Chula, so Tombani na Kanga Mabre Durane, oh Garsure, Tarbatovia, the Tong Shen, the Carjo, Chimbas, the Shen, the Carjo Resingora. Oh, Chicha, Tombani la Tragba Chula, Sigora, Chula, Jigba Kejur Tongue, oh Kirali Atin, Jigba Keber Jurba, Jigores Gora. Kede. And it turned number Chawa Yuna, Tongbani turned number Matube Tombare. Members at turned number Yoba, Rangune Yoba Yenas, Rangshinki Yoba Yenas Gora. And a Shandalo term Guache Yoko Retina, turned number Chawa Yuna, Tombani should they talk bale, Koan Dogbar, Cheber, and Nuber Minjura, and Tombani ton the Koan dog to Yomares Gora. Koa de Rangshinki Truba, Yamo Rangshinki Trubayina. Turned number Trubala, Chache Metebe, Suya. Domini Vecheros, don't number to Valia, Chava that Chebat in the Yuma Rangshin to Rayana, Co Charlotte Megua to Guardiana, Co Chawache to Gumaro, Takba Yangura. Pumbula Tembarishimbane, Pena Migula Church, what is on that Pumbusola, you ran when you have a Tembarishimbane, and then Migula Churshimbana, she should Tonga, should to Gumare, should do some Chimbena, should Chawache. Rato Gumare Sigua. Oh, the Bachilamna.
Right. So this is giving up fear of emptiness, the next section, and so thinking. The verse says, "Thinking nothing exists, what is the use? You may be afraid, but if actions did exist, if karma did exist, this teaching would not be a prevention." So here, the objection here is that, if all things are empty, there are many unwarranted consequences, since by denying the existence of objects, actions and agents, and then even liberation will not exist. So why what the objectioner is saying is, what's the use of trying to attain liberation if nothing exists? Even liberation wouldn't exist. So then in the commentary it's saying, you who fear emptiness may be frightened by thinking, what is the use of striving for liberation since things do not exist if they are empty of inherent existence? And things, once you say they don't exist from their own side, then that means they completely don't exist. Then therefore this would be frightening, and then why would I even try to strive for liberation if nothing exists? But then if actions existed ultimately, like you're saying, you're thinking they exist from their own side. I think it's talking about actions. Karma exists. If karmic actions existed ultimately or from their own side, it would not be possible for anyone to prevent cyclic existence by understanding the teaching of emptiness, since actions and agents are not feasible in the context of existence from its own side, or inherent existence, or intrinsic existence. That if things did exist from their own side, then that means they would be permanent, they'd be static, they couldn't change. So then actions and agents would be not feasible, would be impossible. So then the example here is, thinking the aggregates are truly existence is like thinking a mirage is water. As if you see a mirage and then you go, oh, that's water, and so then thinking that the aggregates are truly existent would be like thinking, well, I could go fill up my canteen if I went by going to that mirage and getting the water.
Tangaba rangjo la lakbar shimba pang ba disigdwa.
Oh, genla? Oh, dila shana dene topakashe yode.
Oh, yeah.
So we have. So what we stopped on? Okay, mirage is water. Yeah. Nasa. We have a few questions, 3 questions, and 2 of them are. One of them is not from today. One just. Okay, good. Then one is here. Code. Tinang ne chik yode de kaza infront tikola ko kecha trigi yode de ganala chimba de dena ranging o de pakchi gaberwan. So this is about verse number 136, and it's saying that we got our first. Is verse 136 saying that we get our first inferential understanding of emptiness by generating a multitude of experiences, whereby whereby we invalidate existence by way of a thing's own entity. So 136 is there's a passage there where it says
I got it.
by merely understanding everything. Oh. Kojena did Gary Thabkhe did because that's a Dongbani J-Pak Teme Dongne Dene Dogyala, that's a Nyamyong Dram and Drala Dene Dongbani J-Pak Tema Tokne Doggy the Bay, Dende Sigurd.
Dongbani Chiba Same Dogre Serve.
Yeah, they
what did Dogra? Right. Then a ranking where you did Dundalagurve. Yeah. Then a ranking where you bala never domatones. Ranking where you're Nasigora. Rangshinki, ranking where you Rangwin, you're by Nasigora. And it came on Boyung Sigora. Rangwin, you're by Yena, called Judan King Leturkumarva. Chashe down to the Leturkumarva. You could see Yake on the Koran at the near 7 and 2 and it should have made the Lunda Nimada to the pork marwa. Koran at the near 2 Rangwin to Yungara. And it Eugene letter Meguba. Chashe the Daxi letter Meguba. Kangbari the Rangwin and the Koda gave one sigba that is Chashe letter Meguja, Koranchi Yorva, and it Suleter Meguba to do Yora. What is a call? Rangone Yabala never tomatone Sigara. Oh, Churnam de Yabane, Done Yaba Conar Conduce, Churnam Yer said, Done Yaba Conar Sigara. Judah King letter, Daxida Chasha letter, didn't drill any Yoko Resgora. Conan Narang Yer said, so young Rangone Yoma Resgara. And Nibane, Done Yaba Cone, Conduce Bane, Ranging Oye Meba, Shula Togbashi, Quebetan says. The Ranging Turn Yabasidu, Turn a Trupudesidu, Ranging Oyo Maris as Cogora, Shulatiha Cogores, Ranging Oyona, Turn a Trupadi Young Mares, she said, oh, this or that, Ranging Oyo Mabate, Chebatsameto or Batambuto, Ranging Oyo Mabara, Turn a Truputo Asgora, Tendete. Ranging away maybe you send it to your Ratambo. Oh, then it tombato, tender samluta, yan tombato. Paruja tomba, I was told a long angle, you go to any tender samlutango marwa. You send some gumara. Shantibato, talit and the tower, tender the touch, you send she, Nechebago, Turch and Drill Nikigua, Koran Rangwin, your Maria, some tombatora.
So it's what this passage is saying. Is that there's one passage that, in the commentary where it says, when one sees that existence by way of a thing's own entity, if you take a look at page 157, this is, and it has this passage that what's being said is, in fact, this. Yes, you do have to understand emptiness through by means of inference here, dependent upon reason. So it says that when one sees that that existence by from its own side, okay, is invalidated in many ways. If things existed from their own side, there's many ways that it's invalid. For instance. So this is like thinking of the reason of dependent arising. So then, if you think, if you use the reason of dependent arising, things depending upon their causes and conditions, for instance, then there's one understanding of dependent arising. So then, if for a sprout to grow, then it needs to depend upon many causes and conditions. It has to have water, it has to have the warmth of the soil, but existence, warmth of the soil, fertility, and so forth. Then all these different causes, and then that seed will sprout, and the sprout will grow. But existence from its own side is saying, well, it doesn't need to depend on any of those causes and conditions. It just, again, it laughs when you think of it, but it just sort of comes up by itself somehow. Okay, so then, so then you say, well, you know, that's there's many ways that you know, that's one of the ways that invalidates this idea of something existing from its own side. So then another way would be if a house, for instance, it has to depend upon its parts, and you know, and if somehow there was a house there without depending upon any parts, if it didn't have any relation to any parts, that's a house. So that's what existence from its own side would mean. So that doesn't seem valid at all. So one discovers that when you invalidate, you discover how things do exist. Okay, how is it that they do exist? It means that as you understand that they only exist dependently, they only have this dependent existence. So then this means that necessarily you would implicitly understand that they don't exist by their own entity or from their own side, because if they're dependently existent, then they can't exist in this other way, which would be contradictory to dependent existence. So then until you have some you know, direct understanding or direct realization of things not existing by way from their own side, then you are, yes, indeed, you are going to have to depend upon reason to reach there, and particularly in this case, it's talking about the reason of dependent arising. Oh, this one, yeah. I didn't read this together yet, but given that our minds are overwhelmed by ignorance, attachment, and hostility, or aversion, who or what, a virtuous mental factor, a wisdom mind, or who or what enables us to make the decision to engage in virtue? That's a sem de be kaza dusum wang kaza shenwang du kegyo de be shen nyumong da nyumong la be shenwang du kegyo de dene yinian de nyumong la be shenwang la yutan dene gandres that's a gewe la gewe jawa de denge de jego de denke tugide gandres denke tugide because that's a similar de because semjung gewe semjung yo de that's a similar de sherab yutan de gandres gewe la juk tugide
yeah that this way Ako nyamo da kondo da nga je chado de yorwa. Yo na ko kyang kang ga de ko semji rangshin le shuba ma re cherwa. Semji rangshin ma nga ran su samlo tang jol du do. Su samlo tang jol ma bu du do. Su samlo su yor ma bu do. O de inde ko su samlo liya. Kondo chabu yo ne kondo kyang samlo ta. 어 대교에 야보매 대과사게 삼제 뇨르뇨르다에 탑시체고라 대전에 고 뇨르뇨르라 다스도 대전에 고 이마칠 톱자고자 매브레 요마라 진짜 고교 가리 연구도 교인데 요라 교인 여산 고교인데 매버서 그래서라 교인데 매버서 톱이야 요레세 교인데 샘디랑시 마레세 간좀 배수 전에 연구됐습니다 대가단 백시도스 대야고 요래 이마레레 메게 시셰바께서나 이게뭐 별이는 애라고 강바도서 시라야고 되고 솔라그 리무티가 리무치 티니티 somde 바로 그 강변할 고란데서는 리무 강도겨라 에네 그 견도 다네 대견레 삼데 뇨르뇨르뇨르 도겨라 바로 질 니마지나 메게베 제베 삼무치 메르무치 티에라고 말아 자 거기 탑시체는 그 야고 매삼 당보 야고 멤버도 하고 에네 다디 야고 멤버 찍기에서 아티리 콘도티 제베 틸릭두자 틸레베사 소소슈지간데 여기 지치니 숨시 캡체 뇨르다 탑시체라 아니 뇨르뇨르라고 탑시레
So even though our minds are overwhelmed by ignorance, attachment, and aversion, it's not within the nature of the mind. They exist in a superficial way. They're not in the nature of the mind. So what that means is that we have the ability to think, okay, and then so through thinking we can then recognize these as faults, and then we can think about what the disadvantages of having these faults is, and then once we understand the disadvantages, then we have to make effort to reduce those faults. Otherwise, if we just sort of say, "Oh, that's interesting," and not do anything, and nothing's going to happen. So you have to then make effort to reduce those faults, and then there's an illustration of one of the again the Gautam stories of one Geshe and this is like a house in Tibet. You could just write on the walls, and so he just kept track. You sort of have to keep track, and this is what he did. He would keep track of, I was angry, and then I felt, jealousy at this time. And then he'd jot it, make a maybe I think he was using chalk, and so then he'd each day he would put down make a mark, and then gradually with practice, in the beginning he sort of like covered the wall, but but gradually it just became less and less and less. Is the time up anyway? Yeah.
This is also
young doctor Zoso.
Did you? This is Domindo.
Zogder.
I undo it.
It's over, right?